Hey, what's up? This is Brian Pfeiffer, the owner of BachelorVegas.com. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about bottle service in Las Vegas. Now, if you guys are familiar with my channels, I have several on YouTube. My claim to my fame video, my first video ever was a video on bottle service. So this is kind of like the follow-up video to that. And I'm going to kind of maybe condense it a little bit, make it a little shorter. I pretty much know all the questions that people ask every day because I sell a lot of bottle service, 75 to 100 groups a weekend book with us. And pretty much I hear the same questions over and over again. Now, if you're a new person to bottle service, this is going to be a great video and very helpful. If you bought bottle service in the past, there might be a few things you pick up in this video, but for the most part, it's probably going to be a lot of questions you already know the answers to. So let's get started. What exactly is bottle service? Okay, people always ask me this question if they've never been to a club or whatever. You always see the tables all around the clubs. Well, generally people are buying what's called bottle service, or some people call it table service. And what they're doing is they're paying an overinflated price for bottle service, or a minimum spend they call it. We'll talk about more of that later. But they're basically just paying for the real estate. Okay, in order to get a table in the nightclub, you have to agree to a minimum spend. All right. If you don't know what a minimum spend is, basically it's just an agreed amount that you are going to spend on alcohol. And if you're at a pool, usually composes of like alcohol and food as well. Okay, so that's what bottle service is. You're just paying for the real estate in the club. And obviously, as you get closer to the DJ, you're going to pay more for the tables. Okay, the better tables are going to cost more money, going to have a higher minimum. All right. So that is, basically a minimum spend. People always ask, this is a very common question. It says like $1,000 for a balcony table, for example. Well, they're asking, do I have to buy bottles on top of that? No. What a minimum spend is, you're agreeing to spend $1,000 on alcohol in order to get the table. Okay, so it's called a minimum spend for a reason, because you're agreeing to spend that amount is your minimum you need to spend in order to get the table. Okay, so the question number 3 I get a lot is, how does bottle service in Las Vegas work? Well, it pretty much works like that. You just agree to a minimum spend and you get a table. Now, there are a few places in Vegas that have a few little bit differently, that you basically pay like a rental fee and then you get the bottles for cheaper. Okay, the only 3 places that I can think of that are like that are pools, and then one of them is at the Flamingo, another one's the Venus Pool, and another one's at Maria Beach Club. Other than that, all the places we work with, all the pool parties, all the nightclubs, it's basically just the minimum spend, and you get a table. You agree to a minimum spend to get a table, and the better the table, the higher the minimum spend. Okay, you're not going to pay any rental fee, and you don't have to buy any bottles on top. You just have to agree to spend that much on booze. All right. Question number 4. People ask like what the influences the cost of tables. Well, there's a lot of things. Okay, the day of the week can make a difference. The DJ obviously can make a difference. If it's a really expensive, brand name DJ like a Tiesto that's going to be there on a Saturday, of course the tables are going to be a lot more. Now, if it's DJ nobody that nobody's ever heard of and it's on like a Monday night, well, then maybe the bottle service is going to be a little bit less. We may even offer some kind of bottle packages and whatnot to get people in the door. So that's generally kind of what influences the cost of the table. Of course, the logistics in the club matter as well. If you're a table near the DJ, that's going to be typically more expensive. On the dance floor, more expensive. The tables all the way in the back or up on the balcony or even outside, if it's a nightclub, are going to be a lot less expensive. Okay. The other weekend there was a big event in town with Lil Wayne, and of course the tables, up near the DJ are probably $15,000 or $20,000 for a minimum spend, and the ones out way in the back and the cabanas at AU Day Club that's connected to the nightclub, those are probably like $1,000 minimum. Okay, that just gives you a little bit of an idea. Let's talk about the music genres of the nightclubs in Las Vegas. You're going to have 2 basic music genres. There's going to be the hip-hop clubs, and then there's going to be the EDM clubs. There's also some clubs that play what's called open format, which is a combination of Latin, top 40, hip-hop, EDM. They kind of mix everything up, okay? Now, the main EDM clubs are going to be your big-name DJs. You're going to see the Cascades of the world, the David Guettas of the world, John Summits of the world, Tiestos of the world. Those are going to be like your EDM clubs, okay? Stevie Aoki, another one. And then there's also going to be the hip-hop venues, okay? That's typically where you're going to find like a performer, okay? Maybe you'll see like a 2 Chainz, or, recently they had a Chris Brown not too long ago. Some big, Lil Wayne, obviously a hip-hop artist, Ludacris, hip-hop artist. Those are going to be like where the DJ mainly is going to spin hip-hop throughout the night, and then around, 2:30 in the morning at the nightclubs, and maybe around 3:30 in the afternoon at the pool parties, the artist will come on and perform for like a half hour, and that's the show, okay? That's the genres. Now, there is another genre called Tech House. It's not real popular out here in Las Vegas. Generally, the Tech House DJs are only going to get booked occasionally on like a festival like the Art of the Wild Festival at the Wynn nightlife venues, or maybe like the After Hours venue out here called Ego. But typically they've found over the years that they just don't draw enough people that spend money to justify their cost. at the nightclubs out here, unfortunately. When I go to Miami, most of the DJs at the nightclubs are going to be tech house and a club space, etc. So it's just a little bit different environment, a little different city. Number 6, large events and day of the week. Okay, say you have, obviously a big event like a Chris Brown or a Lil Wayne, and it's going to be like a holiday weekend, like you have like a fight or a, some kind of a big event going on at maybe a football game, Raider Stadium. The Golden Knights isn't what I would consider like a big event, but there's generally always like some kind of UFC fight. Could be Mexican Independence, could be Memorial Day. There's a lot of big weekends out here in Vegas, okay? So those weekends you can plan on paying a little bit more, higher minimums, and generally the pricing is going to be higher across the board, okay? Sometimes even jack up the bottle prices on the menu, okay? That's common out here. You'll see that every once in a while. I've noticed now some of the Tao Group venues are going to like digital menus. You know why they do that? So now they can have variable pricing on those holiday weekends when the demand's high, okay? So XS used to do it with 2 different printed versions of their menus, but I think they've kind of gone away from that a little bit now. So people have asked me before, what is a handshake, okay? Generally, if you book a table, like, for example, online, you book a back wall table at XS. Let's just give it an example here. And the XS tables, there's a bunch of back walls. Now, there's several of those tables that have, like, a beam in front of them that wouldn't be considered very good tables. Now, if you book online without a VIP host, okay, more than likely you're probably going to get one of those crappy tables, okay, because nobody's making commission on your table, okay? Now, if you wanted to say guarantee one of the best tables with a great view, we do what's called like a handshake, okay? We also call it a podium tip. You can call it a grease. You can call it whatever you want. Basically, it's just a cash tip to the podium in order to get a preferred location, okay? Sometimes we do a cash tip for a lower minimum. Sometimes we do a cash tip for a better table. Some nights, if it's big enough and high enough demand, you have to do a cash tip just to get a table, okay? So that's what a podium tip is, or a handshake is. Dre's has a system in place where you can tip the podium to get a lower minimum. Like, for example, the table is a $2,000 minimum. If you can't afford that with the tip and tax, that's around $2,800. You maybe want to tip the podium $300. That'll drop the minimum by $500. Your total out the door price then drops with the tip and tax to around $2,400, roughly about a $400 savings. Or you can tip $500 to the podium, and that will drop your minimum by $1,000. So you're at $1,000 minimum, $500 podium tip. You still pay tip and tax on the minimum. Your total comes to about $1,850. Okay, so that's almost $1,000. It's about $800 and some dollars less than the original deal at $2,000. Okay, that's the podium tip system. People are asking about, like, what's the advantage of buying a bottle service table versus buying drinks? Well, there's quite a bit of advantages. Obviously, you have a place to hang out and set up shop for the whole night. For guys trying to meet girls, it's way better. For girls trying to meet guys, it's obviously way better than that. The drink prices out here in Las Vegas are around $25 a piece. Okay, roughly you get 22 drinks in a bottle. Depending on how stiff you pour them. Sometimes these Vegas waitresses pour them really stiff. Might get a few less than that. But let's just say you get 25 22 drinks out of a bottle at $25 a drink. So you go 22 times 25, and just on buying drinks, you're at around $550. Okay. Now, most of the bottles at some of the clubs are around, and it could be as low as $500 at some of the places. Most of them are closer to around like $800 or $900 even. So it is just a little bit more to get bottle service if you're going to drink that many drinks. Say you got a big group of like guys, say 10 guys or whatever. Each guy buys 3 drinks. Well, that's 30 drinks. You might as well just potentially get a $1,000 minimum table and get a table so you can set up shop, you can get a bottle, and you got a place to hang out all night. Okay, so that's kind of how it works with the bottle service and the drinks. People ask me once in a while what a bottle package is. Well, generally some of the clubs, usually the older clubs, and sometimes on off nights, the clubs will offer what's called a bottle package. And what it is basically they give us a deal to get people in the door. Basically, it's going to be a couple of bottles typically for less than the cost of retail. Good example is on some Sunday nights and some Wednesday nights at Marquee. 2 bottles would normally run you about $2,800. Okay, about $900 plus the tip and tax. All that comes out to around $2,800. And I can do a bottle package typically for a couple of bottles for around $1,650. So it's almost $1,000 off. Okay, that's a good example of a bottle package. Sometimes I get asked about IDs, the security, the dress code. Everywhere's a little bit different depending on the ownership of the venue. Okay, the Tao Group used to be really strict with the security checks and whatnot. They've loosened up now. You pretty much just got to walk by a metal detector. They might wand you down, and you walk in. They're not searching your pockets or anything like that anymore. You go over to the Wynn, which is XS Encore Beach and Encore Beach at night. They're going to dig into your pockets. They're going to search you down pretty hard. Okay, so they're a little bit different over there. Guys from out of town, I run into this a lot. a lot of times they don't take those foreign IDs. So you're going to want to bring your passport out, even though you're worried about losing it. Most people are. You're going to want to make sure you bring those passports out with you. I've seen guys show up and think they got something on their phone. Maybe that works in Europe, but that doesn't work here. Okay, you actually have the physical passport or the physical ID with you on the site. They're pretty strict about it here. These are casinos, and most of the time they're casino-operated security, and they're pretty difficult. Let's just say that. You got to come proper on that. And dress code, guys. I do have, on the link below, you can click on the website here. I do have a whole section on dress code. You got some pictures and whatnot. But, come dressed to impress at the nightclubs especially. Ladies, you can pretty much get away with what you want. Guys, you're going to want to wear, nice pants, nice shoes, nice shirt. These are classy places out here in Las Vegas, so come dressed the part. Make sure the ladies bring some cover-ups for when you leave the pool and whatnot. You don't want to be walking through the casinos with your bikini on and whatnot. So that's important. Let's talk about the time of arrival when you come to the club. A lot of times I'm on a tight schedule and I'm meeting my customers. I say I'm going to be there at 10:30. I'm going to be there at 10:30. Okay. If you're late, well, I'll have it probably arranged where you can be late, and I'll tell you what to do, give you instructions. But it's important that if you want to get walked in, especially later in the night when it's around midnight and it's super busy at these clubs and there's sometimes a big line, you follow the instructions and you make sure you show up on time. There's going to be a lot of traffic around Vegas at all times on the busy weekends especially, and we got the F1 construction coming up. That's always going to be a problem. So, just make sure you give yourself enough time. Maybe plan on having dinner at the same casino where the club is you're going, and that way when you're done with dinner, you can just walk over. There's no worries about traffic or anything like that. So those are some of the things I would recommend as far as being on time. I run a tight ship. My partner runs a tight ship, and if you're late, we can still probably make it happen. But obviously, we'd like to give you that full service and get you guys walked in and everything. The clubs all operate on what's called a supply and demand system. Okay, generally on bigger nights, the prices are going to go up as we get closer to the date, and even on the night of, they might go through the roof. Okay, rarely do I have a situation where we might get bumped from a table that we agreed upon. It does happen, but probably only happened to me a couple times in the last 5 or 10 years. It's very rare. So most of the time, I guarantee what we promise. We do some kind of deposit, and you're locked in. But just keep in mind that if there is a situation where a customer comes in and says, hey, I got 20 grand, I just want to, blackjack, whatever, and I want this table, I'm paying this much for it, and you're at 5,000, there's a possibility we could get bumped, okay? That does happen on occasion out here. It's very rare, but it does happen. So just understand it is a supply and demand system always. Pretty much it's fixed in stone when you work with me, but, every once in a while we do run into an issue like that. How many people per table? That's another question I get a lot. Generally you can kind of make this assumption around 4 to 5 people per bottle. So if you buy you have a group of 10, you're probably going to need at least a 2-bottle table to get everybody in. That's kind of a rule of thumb. If you're obviously going to spend a lot more than that, you might want to just go ahead and, do a $2,500 min or a $3,500 minimum to get a better table. Okay. So generally, rule of thumb, 5 people per bottle. A lot of the tables at some of the older clubs don't hold more than about 10 or 12 people. Some of the newer clubs are built better, and they have bigger tables. You can put 15 or 20 on those tables. It's a case-by-case basis, so if you got questions on how many people per table and which tables are going to fit your group, let me know. Worst case scenario, maybe we have to get 2 tables, put them side by side. That happens fairly often. How do guests get in if they arrive late? I get this question a lot. People are so worried about their friends coming late. They oversleep or they go to the pool, get wasted, and they need to take a nap. It's easy out here, okay? It's not a problem. All you got to do is give people the name of the table, which typically is the customer name, and then the table number once I get it on the night of it. The people can show up later. They can just say your name and the table number, and they'll get right in. They get a slip written up, and they walk right in. You don't have to go out to the front and get them. They're going to get in. These systems are designed for latecomers and stragglers. We deal with it every single weekend, and there's no need to come out. You just got to give them a name and table number. If you want, I can even send you a table map, so you can send that to your late friends, and they can see where the table is in the club, and just get right in and walk to your table. Now, if they show up at prime time when it's super busy, they might have to wait a little bit. That's just the way it is. They show up late. That's kind of their own fault. It is what it is. They're going to get in. Just tell them to be patient. Every once in a while, we have a capacity issue at these clubs when, say, John Summit's at Live Beach or Live, and, they're going to have to wait. Okay, they show up at 12:30 when the club's at capacity. That's the rules. You got to let people out before you can let people in. That's just the way it goes. So just keep that in mind for the latecomers and whatnot. People always ask how you get a bottle service presentation. That's, one of those things that's kind of up to the waitresses. Obviously if you're a big customer and you're buying like a 10K table or 8K table or something like that, I can arrange a walk-in and a presentation right off the bat. Now, if you're a smaller customer, say you're at like a 2K minimum, it may be difficult to get a bottle service presentation, especially on like a really busy night at some of these clubs. The waitresses are really stacked and they got multiple tables going on. They sometimes have to go help out on other tables for the other customers' bottle presentations for the bigger customers, and they may require you to order like a bottle of champagne or $2,000 all at once in order to get a presentation. Okay, it's never guaranteed. Now, generally, if you come early and you want to get a presentation for like the bachelorette or the birthday person or whatever, and you ask the waitress nicely, tell them what's going on, she may be able to bring out a sign of some sort or some lights and whatnot and make it kind of special. Okay, but I would recommend doing that earlier in the night. Get there maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock before the big customers start rolling in, because that makes things a lot more difficult for the waitresses as the night goes on. Obviously, you spend money on champagne and whatnot, they're going to give you a light show or a bottle display. That's just kind of how it works. All right. And one other question I get is how to find girls. If you're guys, typically girls don't really ask me how to find guys. I don't think it's too hard out here to find guys. But as far as finding girls, there's a couple different ways. Okay, number one, I do offer like an atmosphere model service, and it's very popular these days. Actually, several atmosphere models a weekend I book out for my customers. Basically, you're just paying $100 an hour to the girls, and they come and hang out at your table. It's a 4-hour minimum. Girls like to travel in groups of 2 or more, and you got 2 pretty girls, 3 pretty girls, whatever, hanging out at your table all night, talking to the guys that can maybe help your cause of getting other girls to the table. If the girls can even walk around, meet some other girls for you, bring them to the table. That's the atmosphere model service. Now, if you don't want to do the atmosphere models, you want to kind of just play your hand with what you get in your table, well, there is a girl guy at the club. Now, say you got a table all the way in the back or outside at excess or something. It's not a great table. The girl guy is probably not going to want to bring girls to your table. Let's just be realistic. When you have a nicer table, maybe a large third row or a dance floor, an upper dance floor at some of these clubs, well, I can bring over the girl guy who's in charge of like the promoter table. Okay, the promoter table is going to be where they bring all the prettiest girls in from the guest list. They let them hang out there, give them some free drinks, and then throughout the night they disperse those girls to the higher paying customers and the better tables. Okay, and generally that guy works for a tip. I can introduce you to that guy. He's going to be there at most of the nightclubs and some of the pool parties, and they can bring girls to your table all night for a reasonable tip or whatever. Okay, so that's one option, and the other option is obviously just to get a table and use that table as leverage to walk around and just I'm not saying be aggressive with girls, but you can be a little bit more forward, if you will, in Las Vegas than you would be at maybe your hometown, where you might be seeing these girls again. Okay, there's a pretty high likelihood that any girl you walk up to in Las Vegas you'll probably never see again. So you might as well be a little bit aggressive and walk up to her and be a little forward and say, "Hey, listen, you want to come by my table, have a drink?" What's the worst they're going to say? No? Okay, boom, I'm never going to see you again. Now, if you do that in your hometown and you walk up to a girl and say, ask her to come to your table and you get rejected, well, you're probably going to see that girl again. Okay, that's a little bit more of a different story. So just keep that in mind when you're in Las Vegas. That's what I would recommend is, just being a little bit more forward than you maybe would in your hometown. And as far as like the tables go, to get something reserved with me, everything requires a deposit with my business. I don't do anything without a deposit these days. Just about every club requires a deposit. Back in the day, we did stuff without a deposit. We had so many no-shows. It was just crazy. Now that we do deposits, we have a lot more people that actually show up on time, et cetera. I do offer like a prepayment service. I got guys I was dealing with today from Australia. They're sending me a wire. And there's other guys, they're sending me several big Venmos. They're doing like a $15,000 package with us. The reason why we do that sometimes is because my credit cards, I'm local, they always go through. Okay, never had an issue with a credit card in Las Vegas with any of my credit cards. Well, a lot of times when you come from out of the country, or you come from Canada especially, and you go to run a credit card on one of these cards, you get fraud blocked. Okay, and then you got to go deal with going into the back. You maybe have to put in a PIN number. You have to call the credit card company. You can waste a half hour to an hour. I've seen it over an hour about people wasted dealing with a credit card issue. So we can avoid all that if you're coming from out of town, and we can do prepayments. I'm a licensed independent host. I actually have a Nevada gaming license. I'm insured, bonded, everything. So I'm contracted with every club. You don't have to worry about your stuff getting taken here. I make sure that everything you're promised you get delivered on, and you avoid some of those issues. Okay, so that's one thing we can do out here. We do offer like packages and whatnot that include like dinner, limos, strip clubs, nightclubs, men's shows for the ladies. And we do tons of those. Okay, that's basically half my business. The other half of my business is just the bottle service tables. And, I'm here to help. So you got questions for me? Hopefully I answered a lot of them in this video. And what I didn't get answered, go ahead and make sure you hit me up on my cell. My number is 773-459-8133. That's my cell phone. Go ahead and hit that up and shoot me a text, and I'll get on a call with you and answer any questions you might have. Get your table set up. I'm looking forward to working with you out here in Las Vegas with some bottle service. I'm Brian Pfeiffer. Let's talk soon. Bye.